I'm a 23-year-old, child-free woman, and my sister is 30 with a 4-year-old son. She's a single mom, her ex-husband is not in the picture and has no contact with her or the kid. I'm going to get straight to the point. That kid is a nightmare to be around. It's not his fault, it's my sister's fault. He very clearly has behavioral and mental health disorders, even at his young age. However, my sister was and is very ableist and refuses to accept that her son has problems. The kid screams bloody unalive whenever something doesn't slightly go his way, screams and cries when he's overwhelmed, and has meltdowns to certain sounds and textures. Like I said, I don't blame the kid for these issues, but my sister refusing to get him treatment or help makes the kid a nightmare to be around. So, as a result, I don't babysit the kid when my sister asks, more like demands. I do so. This causes a lot of fights between us and our family. I have a friend, 23M, who's married to a wonderful lady aged 22, and they have a baby boy together who just turned 1. Yes, they got married and had him young, but it's not my place to judge them. This past weekend, they asked me to babysit for them, and I agreed for a few reasons. Their kid is calm, well-behaved, and a generally good kid toddler/baby to be around. I love babysitting him. Also, they asked me nicely and understood that I might say no because I'm child-free. They were polite about their request. A thing about me is that if you ask me to do something politely, even if it's something I wouldn't usually agree to, I'd probably do it because you were nice and polite. So for these reasons, I happily agreed to babysit the boy. My sister also asked me to babysit her son that day, so she could have a day to herself, and I refused and told her I was already babysitting for my friends. She was pissed, to say the least. She said a few comments about how I was in butt and not a good sister, but I thought she dropped it after that. This past weekend, while I was watching the baby, my sister started banging on my door. I looked through the window and saw that she had her kid and a care bag with her, and I knew she was trying to drop him off and make me babysit. She was banging on the door, yelling at me and calling me heartless and a baby hater, while I was holding a baby. Ironic, and that I better open up and do my sisterly duties. I put the baby in a different room to keep him from getting scared by the noise and told my sister through the window to leave, or I would call the cops. She started cursing for a solid 5 minutes before she finally left. I had the whole thing on my doorbell camera and sent it to the family group chat. Surprisingly, my whole family is on my sister's side. She keeps arguing with me about how I'd rather babysit a kid not even related to me over my nephew. I reminded her that her kid is a nightmare to be around, but she keeps saying that for family, you help out. My sister has been cold since and keeps sending me text messages to provoke me into arguing with her more. She's also started saying some pretty ableist and nasty things towards my friend's wife. My friend's wife is on the spectrum and has BPD, and my sister keeps saying that she should have been sterilized and never should have passed her issues to her kid. By the way, her kid has shown none of the signs that autistic infants usually show, so I don't know what my sister is on. I will admit that I do feel a bit guilty because I never consider babysitting my nephew, but I jumped at the opportunity to babysit my friend's kid. My sister, dad, mom, and brother are all calling me a jerk and saying that I'm just using the CF label to avoid family responsibility. I need advice on how to get my family to see my perspective on this. How can I explain to them that the issue isn't the idea of babysitting, but it's the behavior of the kid? Now, for a few important comments. Commenter: just ignore your sister, maybe even block her. She isn't entitled to you as a babysitter. As for your family, black kettle them. So when are you babysitting sister kiddo since family should care for family? Then OP replied, my brother has a wife and kids, so he can't babysit, and my parents are in their early mid-60s and claim to be too old to do so. I'm the youngest and was a whoops baby my parents had in their 40s by chance. Because of my young age and the fact I'm not married and don't have kids, they keep saying I'm the perfect person to babysit because I have nothing to do, not even taking into consideration that I have a job and friends of my own. Another commenter asked why the brother couldn't take care of him if he already has experience with his own kids. Then OP replied, in the words of my family, He already has his own family responsibility. You have none. Yes, that's pretty much always their response to when I ask why can't my brother babysit the kid. My brother also deep down knows the kid is a nightmare, even as much as he tries to ignore it along with my sister and parents. His kids don't like spending time with her kid because he's had violent meltdowns and hurt them before. The kids avoid that boy like the plague. I don't blame any of the kids in that situation. My sister's son clearly has behavioral and/or mental issues that cause him to react violently to overstimulation, which is not his fault. He needs help so he can develop ways of controlling his meltdowns and keep his emotions in check. My brother's kids, while mature for their age, are kids and don't fully understand why he acts the way he does, and therefore harbor resentment and dislike towards him. I feel bad for all the kids involved. Nobody is winning. Another commenter suggested muting the group chat and contacting experts for advice for the nephew. Then OP replied, I've muted the group chat, and I know this is a me issue, but I can't help but check on it every few hours and feel bad about causing a fight. I'm soft, I know. As for my nephew, I don't mean to sound rude, but what good would that do? Yes, I can have an expert weigh in their opinion, but at the end of the day, my sister won't get him help. So what would be the point? Once again, I don't mean to be rude. Another commenter pointed out that if she plans to send her child to public school, her neglect will become extremely obvious when he is unable to manage himself, and she tells mandated reporters she refuses to get him the help he needs. Then OP replied, this issue already came up. He's close to turning 5, and last school year he was supposed to be in preschool. He was enrolled, and of course, the workers' teachers noticed his issues right away and tried to convince my sister to sign him up for the SPED program in the preschool and for behavioral therapy. She outright refused, went off on them, and pulled her kid from the program. He's going to start kindergarten in the fall, and my sister said if they insult her son, she'll pull him out and homeschool him. I feel bad for my nephew because it's not his fault he was born with these issues that cause him to act out when he gets overwhelmed. I sincerely hope my sister wakes up and gets him help, or that once he grows up, he'll get help himself. Commenter, you need to be honest with your family about what a nightmare the child is. Ask them to babysit if they disagree, then block the idiots. Then OP replied, they know the child is a nightmare. They keep trying to pretend he's not and ignore the issue. But they know they don't want to piss my sister off by mentioning it, as she goes nuclear with insults and fights whenever someone brings it up. I love my family, I love my nephew, and I love my sister, but it is so wrong to just ignore the issues he has. He needs help. There is something wrong in his head. I'm not saying that to be mean or cruel or ableist in any form, but it's the truth. OP responds to a longer comment. I really hope I wasn't offensive with my wording. It feels wrong to say this kid has things wrong with him in the head, or he's messed up in the head, but I genuinely don't know how else to describe it. I really don't phrase it that way to be mean or ableist or any kind of ist or phobic, but that's the only way I can think of to describe it without a diagnosis. I don't know how much help CPS would be. We live in a small town in the South. I don't even know if CPS has an office down in our town's district. The nearest town over is a rundown city with a high crime rate, child abandonment rate, and drug use rate, so I can imagine that the CPS offices there are probably overwhelmed. Sounds like she has mental health issues too. I don't want to speculate, but I don't think she does. I think she's just ableist towards mental health disorders specifically. I'm not saying that mentally ill people can't also be prejudiced towards others with disorders and mental illnesses, but she doesn't show any signs of having any mental illness, so I don't think she has any. I could always be wrong, as I'm not a therapist or doctor, but this is just my perspective from growing up with her. Maybe when he's too much for everyone else in your family, and she really has no help at all, she will take steps to get her son the guidance he needs. Then OP replied, my parents used to try and tell her this when he was a smaller toddler, and showing these behaviors. They were more tame then and have escalated as he got older. She blew up, said that if they kept insulting her kid, she wouldn't let them see him again. Obviously, I can't imagine the position that put my parents in. They love their children and grandchildren, so I can imagine a threat like that would make them cave. Now, from the sister's point of view, the problem is my sister doesn't want him to be diagnosed with anything. She has this belief that kids are overdiagnosed as a way for pharmaceutical companies and hospitals to get more money out of parents and insurance companies. And I agree to an extent that we do have an issue of over-medicalization in our country, and that we tend to slap pills and medication over the problem rather than find a way to actually resolve it. However, that doesn't mean I think that medication isn't the solution in some cases. I don't know what would help my nephew, but I'm pretty sure that doing nothing is worse for him. Now for OP's family and their views. My parents and brother don't share the same beliefs about mental illness that she does, and I was in no way raised in any way that could even remotely cause that belief. I'm still shocked, angry, and horrified she said that about my friend's wife. I almost feel like I need to address it in itself. She literally said my friend should be sterilized and prevented from having kids because she has a mental illness. I can't even wrap my mind around how cruel someone can be to say that a woman who's always wanted to be a mom and is a great mom should be sterilized simply because she has a mental illness. A few last clarifications from OP. 1. My sister makes enough money to live comfortably with her and her son. Hiring a sitter would put a bit of a strain on that. They're in that financial bracket where they are comfortable, but they can't afford expensive things or afford to pay for extra things. I guess you could say they are lower middle class. 2. According to them, they are. My mom retired early from a state job and has a part-time easy job, and my dad is still working a different state job for a few more years. 3. My sister's ex isn't the dad. My sister has red-brown hair. Her husband had brown hair. Kid came out with very light blonde hair. My family didn't see this as odd because I have a very light, white-looking blonde hair color, and one of my nieces also has blonde hair, so we just figured my sister carried the recessive gene. Husband wasn't suspicious of anything either, until sister broke down in a panic at the blonde hair and confessed that while they had been a short break after a fight, she had slept around a bit. Husband left because he didn't agree to opening the marriage during the break and didn't sign the birth certificate. Sister has no idea who the father is and has no way to get in contact with any of the guys she slept with. Now for the update. So, shoot has hit the fan. My original post was about 3 days ago, and ever since that post, my sister's behavior escalated. I tried to talk to her about getting help for my nephew, and she kept screaming at me every time I brought it up. She said a lot of derogatory terms towards people with mental illnesses and mental disabilities, terms I won't repeat here. That wasn't the only escalation. She was at my door several times a day starting 2 days ago, the day after I made my original post. Banging on my door, screaming, crying, cursing, the works. She brought my nephew each time, and he always looked so confused and defeated. He was too tired to react or melt down like he normally does around loud noises, and it broke my heart to see that on my doorbell camera. I wasn't at my house. I was crashing with my friend and his wife. I took the advice of a commenter who said to put some physical distance between me and my sister. They said I was free to stay as long as I wanted, as long as I helped out with some house chores and childcare while I stayed, which I thought was more than fair. So, I'm staying in their guest room currently. I'm still with them, even though my sister isn't much of a problem. Many will be glad to know that my sister won't have parental rights over my nephew soon. She dropped him off at a safe haven site in the middle of the night. Totally a fun phone call to wake up to at 2 a.m. And my nephew is currently with my parents. Social services placed him with my parents, and he's set to have mandatory therapy. In my state, don't know if it's different in others. If a child is abandoned in any way, safe haven or not, a physical and mental health exam is done. Other than being a little bit underweight, my nephew was physically healthy. He wasn't being physically abused like a few people were worried, but it was obvious he needed mental health, so he'll be starting therapy sessions soon as mandated by a caseworker. We are not looking for my sister. After she dropped her son off, she left. She had quit her job a few weeks back, sold her car, and even her house a few weeks ago, and had been renting a place, so this was planned. In my personal opinion, she planned to abandon her son the day I was babysitting my friend's baby, which is why she had such a nuclear reaction. She did leave a note saying she can't do it anymore. She met someone and that she doesn't want to be a mom to my nephew anymore. In her note, she said she deserves a normal kid and not a burden like my nephew. I seriously hope that my sister doesn't have any more kids with this mystery person she's referencing, but it seems like she's running off to start a new life and family. She still has 30 days to reclaim rights over my nephew, but it doesn't look like she'll do that. Time will tell. Like I said, I'm still with my friends because I was worried my sister would do something. My parents and brother have also been blowing up my phone and coming to my house, switching between apologies and blaming me for this. They think that maybe if I babysat that day, she wouldn't have done this. But I think she wanted me to babysit so she could do this. I'm not mad at them for blaming me. I understand that my sister is still their family and they're rightfully in shock and want someone to blame. They're human, and I know humans can be cruel sometimes while going through shock and grief. So, yeah, that's life right now. I'm currently sitting on the couch with my friend's baby while my friend is at work and his wife does a quick grocery run. She was going to take the baby, but I insisted on watching him so she didn't have to hassle with the car seat in the very stormy weather we have in our area right now. This update is all over the place. I feel like I'm rambling. There's still a lot of unknown stuff regarding my sister and nephew, but for now, this is the update. I don't know if I'll post more regarding this situation. My friend's wife is telling me I should relax and just not think about anything relating to this until I'm more level-headed, but I don't think that's possible. Now for a few comments. Commenter: your sister clearly has her own severe mental health issues she's refusing to acknowledge. As messed up as it might have been, this is best for your nephew. Also, I didn't know you could just drop off a child of any age at a place like that. I thought any child over 2 couldn't be released like that. I don't know my state laws, so I don't know. Because I'm not directly involved in the case, I'm not getting updates. When I say we are not looking for her, I mean me and my family. Police could be looking for her, but I'm out of the loop on this whole case. Now for the 11 days later update. My sister abandoned her 5-year-old son a little less than 2 weeks ago and fled. Police are looking for her, but she hasn't been found yet. My nephew is with my parents and is in therapy. When that first happened, my parents were quick to blame me because I had refused to babysit the kid in the past, and the weekend before my sister ultimately abandoned him. They think had I babysat him that day, she wouldn't have fled. I've been staying with my friends since then. And, oh my God, it's chill here. They're young parents with a baby, and yet it's chill here. Everyone is happy. They talk things out when there are issues. They work together. I've met both parents of my friends, and they're nice and polite. Obviously, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I have seen some bickering, and they always find a way to resolve it. Growing up, my parents always argued a lot. My siblings were always loud and cruel to each other at times, and there always had to be someone to blame. If you were the person who was blamed, you were insulted and shunned for a while, then they would apologize. You were always expected to forgive and forget. My parents are trying to apologize to me about their blowout at me regarding my sister, and I can understand their initial feelings. I'm willing to forgive, but I know my family will also expect me to forget. But I can't forget. I don't think I can forget this whole situation. So I'm wondering if I would be the jerk if I chose to forgive them, but refused to forget this whole thing. Am I the idiot for confronting my husband about never including me in our daughter's birthday photos? Pretty much as the title says. My daughter turned 5 in the middle of last week, but yesterday we had her birthday party. We had it at the local trampoline park since that's her favorite place right now, lol. Because of my husband's work schedule, I did the majority of the planning. He did contribute financially, but I planned the theme, made the party reservation, ordered the cake, made the party favors extra. My daughter is a huge daddy's girl, and thus he is the favorite parent. She's only 5, so I don't hold it against her by any means, but it still definitely hurts. For health reasons, I can't jump with my daughter, but my husband was. They both had a great time, and so did the other kids that were there. But just like previous years, I'm the one behind the camera. I take all the pictures every year, and I'm not in any of them. I've spoken to my husband about my feelings before, but all I get are empty promises of how he will do better. Last year, we rented a room at the local conference center for her party, and I asked my grandmother to take pictures of me and my husband holding our child while we sang Happy Birthday and cut the cake. Instead of pictures, she took a video. Once again, no pictures of me. Call me old-fashioned, but I like printing pictures for photo albums. And I can't exactly print off a video. So another year of no pictures. After yesterday's party, we decided to take her gifts home rather than open them at the party. The kids had a very limited time at the park, so rather than spend 20 minutes opening presents, we figured it would be better to take them home and open them there so the kids had more time to play. Even while opening presents, I was behind the camera. My husband didn't think once that I should be in any of them. By the end of the day, I was very upset, and I'll give my husband credit for knowing when I am. But then again, I wasn't really hiding it. I went to say goodnight to my daughter because I had to be up early the next day. He followed me to talk to me. He said, "What's wrong? What did I do?" I just looked at him and said, "It's what you didn't do." For the 3rd year in a row, I just went to the bedroom and he didn't follow me. I'm just done. I'm so sick of his empty promises of doing better. Besides little things like this, he's a good husband and an amazing father. But it genuinely feels like there are times when he doesn't think about me at all. And if anyone thinks, well, why don't you just ask him to take pictures? I shouldn't have to. I'd like to think that my husband would want pictures of me and our child together. The last picture I remember him taking of me and our daughter was in a restaurant on my 29th birthday, and I asked him to take it. I'm so tired of this. At any time, I could get sick or be in an accident and die, and the only pictures my daughter will have of me will be selfies I've taken. None of me on her birthdays or even holidays. Because of our crazy schedules, I won't see my husband again until next Sunday, unless he stays up all night to see me in the AM, which he sometimes does. Part of me wants to text him and lay it all out, again, but the majority of my thoughts is to just give up on it. I told my husband for the 3rd year in a row, but it's probably been more than that. I don't recall seeing any pictures of me and her on her birthday, or me even being in the background. I'm just so hurt and tired of it. Thanks for reading. Now for a few comments. I'm really sorry you're going through this. What you're feeling is totally valid. It's not just about pictures. It's about feeling seen and valued in your family. Maybe suggest hiring a photographer for important occasions. It might take the pressure off you and ensure you're included in those cherished memories. Then OP replied, "Thank you. It feels good to be validated." Unfortunately, we aren't in a situation where we can afford a professional photographer. I may talk to my mother-in-law and see if she can help me take pictures during the next family event, holiday/birthday. I definitely don't trust my husband too, even if I talk to him. Again, does your husband take pictures of other things? Then OP replied, "Not really. He's taken selfies of both of them together and pictures of just her. But for all major events, it's pretty much just me. Some people are just bad at pictures. Some people just don't think of it. Yeah, for you, he should think of it. But that's your expectation. Do you think that if you didn't take pictures of him and her, he would be as upset as you? Some people worry more about being in the moment than taking pictures. Either way is fine, but if you want more picture with your child, then ask. Even if you have to ask him 20x in a day, ask. It's what you want. And if he wants it, he'll take pictures. If not, that's okay. Just because he doesn't take pictures of you doesn't mean he doesn't think of you, doesn't mean he doesn't love you, and doesn't mean he's not a good father or husband. You're valid in your feelings, but leaving it up to him to make the right decision for you is not how to go about it. It's argument, tension, waiting to happen. Then OP replied, "Thank you for this insight. A lot of this was written before I've had the chance to really calm myself and think about things. The biggest reason I'm hurt by this is because of the many times I've talked to him about it, and nothing has changed. But I also realize, as you've said, that sometimes he's just in the moment and genuinely doesn't think about pictures at the time. I'm going to have another sit down with him when I see him next to explain my feelings again, but also ask him to take pictures when the time comes. Thank you for a new perspective on this. I'll work with him to improve on picture taking going forward. Your feelings are valid. But you kind of cut off your nose to spite your face here. You should have insisted on some photos. Sure, you should not have to ask, but end result is no photos, and you can't take that back. I'm going to be honest and a bit harsh here. For now, 3 years you are aware your husband doesn't think to take pictures. But for now, 3 years you didn't think to speak up in the moment and ask for pictures? This is on you too. Sit down with the presents, hand your husband the phone, and tell him to take pics. Set the phone on a tripod and set a timer to take a pic every 30 seconds. Take a selfie. Literally do anything because you are doing nothing, then getting mad that nothing is being done. Clearly your husband doesn't care. Remember, think about taking pics. You're doing the same thing year after year but getting mad that nothing is changing. Change it yourself. Now for the update. Thank you to everyone who read and commented on my post. There were a lot of supportive comments and some harsh ones, but I appreciate them all, as there were many who made some great points. Many pointed out that my husband is probably just someone who wants to live in the moment, and I 100% agree. The biggest reason I was hurt was because of how many times I have spoken to him about my feelings and his constant promises to do better. However, like many said, he probably just doesn't think about it at the time. I don't think he does it on purpose or doesn't do it out of spite. He's probably having too much fun with our daughter and forgets, and I shouldn't have let it get to me too much. I still think I shouldn't have to ask, but we clearly have different views when it comes to special occasions. He wants to live in the moment, and I want to preserve the moments. With that said, please know that I don't constantly have a camera in my hand. I just use my phone to snap pictures every so often. I put the phone down so I can enjoy my daughter's parties and family gatherings too. I just wanted him to do the same for me on occasion. Many have said to just take selfies of me and her, and I do. I take a lot of them. I would just like pictures others have taken as well, or even just pictures of me there where I'm not necessarily posing. Just pictures of me playing with her or hanging out at the party with family and friends. Many suggested hiring a photographer, but that's not something we can really afford. But hopefully, with our talk, we won't even need to consider it. On to the update. My husband and I spoke last night. When I don't have work the next day, I stay up late so I can spend some time with him, and I wanted us to finally talk. When he came home, we sat down. He says he still didn't fully understand what he did wrong, and I told him again how I wasn't in any pictures and how I have talked to him about this many times. I did say that I understand he was someone who more lives in the moment, but I just wanted to have proof that I was there too, that I was present at her parties and for her to have memories of me there. Our daughter is only 5 and she won't remember her parties or holidays from when she was younger. As she gets older, I know she will know I was there, but I also want her to see me in her younger years as she grows up. There were some tears and we apologized to each other. He promised again to do better, but I'm not gonna lie. I'll believe it when I see it, as he said that before, lol, and I promise to be more understanding of his values. Going forward, I'll also ask family and friends to help take pictures, so there are also more photos to save and not just mine. And yes, as many said, there will be times where I just flat out ask him to take pictures. Thank you again to everyone who commented on my last post. I appreciate the support and also the comments that made some great points about how each of us have different perspectives, and I need to be more understanding of his values and not just mine. Now for a few comments. One commenter said, One of my biggest regrets is that I don't have any pictures of me holding my daughter when she was an infant. I would love to look back on those now. You don't realize it at the time, but you don't ever get a second chance there. I feel you. Another commenter suggested, I saw a good suggestion on your original post. Ask him to take pictures on a more regular basis, not just big events. This will get him used to the idea that pictures should be taken. It will also give him some practice. Am I the idiot for charging my pregnant friend $700 for a wedding cake after she said it wasn't a real gift? I have a friend, who I'll call Mary, female 33, who is getting married in 2 weeks. She and I have been friends for several years, and I was excited when she asked me if I could make her cake. I don't normally do cakes anymore for people outside of family and friends as I'm currently pregnant, have a 1-year-old, and am currently pursuing another master's degree in education administration, so I can be a school principal because teaching is dead end without an admin license, unfortunately. At the time when she asked, I was also teaching full-time and finishing up a different master's program. Anyway, I agreed to make this cake over a year ago. I told Mary when she offered to pay that I would do it for free as my wedding gift to her. I distinctly said, wedding gift. She accepted, and we started planning the design. Mary wanted a 4-tier cake with each tier a different flavor: white, chocolate, yellow, lemon, and several sugar flowers and fondant decorations, as well as 3 different flavored buttercreams. It was a lot, but since she is having an August wedding, I had time because school would be out for summer, and I am actually taking a year off since finding out I was pregnant a few months ago. Saturday, I went to Mary's bachelorette party. The party itself was fine. Nothing remarkable happened. I couldn't drink, but everyone had fun. One of Mary's bridesmaids asked what we all were getting her for her wedding. I said I was making the cake for free. The bridesmaid and other girls there said that was a good gift because cake is expensive, and they wished they had gotten one for free. That's it, and I heard nothing else about it until today. Mary texted me and asked why I wasn't getting her a wedding gift. I told her I was, and that it was the cake, and reminded her that the cake was free. She said that wasn't a gift and that it's a favor. I told her it's a gift and that she can't tell me what I can gift her. I then asked why she was mentioning it, and she said the bridesmaid I spoke to Saturday told her that she was so lucky to get a free cake. She agreed, but then was upset when the bridesmaid said, "That's a good gift." I asked her if her own bridesmaid thinks it's a good gift. What's the problem? And she said it's not up to the bridesmaid to tell her what her gifts are. I told her this is her gift. She said that a gift needs to be something she can use in her marriage, not just the cake at the wedding. I told her with me going to school and not working right now, that this is a major expense that I'm taking on by doing it for free. And she said that wasn't her problem and that a real friend would do both. I responded with, "Fine, I'll get back to you." And she thanked me for understanding. About 30 minutes later, I sent her a bill for her cake. The bill was for $700 with a deposit of $350 due by this Friday and the rest 24 hours before the event start time. She asked me what that was for, and I told her since it's not a gift, she needs to pay for it. She said she couldn't afford it, and I told her I didn't care, and this is what business looks like. I did promise to get her a gift off of her registry, though. She told me no cake is worth $700, but in the bill breakdown, I pointed out where it was going from ingredients to transportation. Her venue is 45 minutes away. Additional labor, my husband helps me deliver cakes, so he's getting paid too. Last-minute booking, time, and the size of the cake on top of the intricate decorations she wants. She said she shouldn't be charged for anything since I promised to do it for free, and it's too late to find another baker. I said that sounds an awful lot like not my problem. Because it isn't. She then asked if I could just do the cake for free and forget the gift, but I said no, this is the new deal, and I have not responded to her texts since. She and her fiancé were venting in a group message with the wedding party that I'm not in. One of the bridesmaids, who is a mutual friend, asked me what happened after telling me what was being said in the group text, and I sent her the messages of our exchange, and now apparently the bridal party is now divided. Some are saying I should go back and do the cake for free, like I originally promised, while others are telling Mary she was wrong, and apparently it's become a huge ordeal. Her fiancé is now mad at both of us for being petty and ridiculous. My husband is team, Mary can suck an egg and doesn't think I should do the cake or get the gift. But he told me to remember this could cost me a friendship, but he'd support me either way. But he thinks I should stand my ground in this and not let Mary push me around. However, my husband also doesn't really like Mary for unrelated reasons, so he may be biased. Am I the jerk for charging my friend for the cake and refusing to do it free after she got mad at me? Now for the next day update. I read as many comments as I could. TBH, I did not expect the amount of responses I got and responded to who I could. This post was originally going to be answering as many repeat questions as I could, but this morning, mutual friend bridesmaid, I'll call Pam, messaged me today to give me an update. Mary and her fiancé, I'll call Frank, are currently not on speaking terms because they got into an argument last night. It wasn't directly because of the cake, but what the cake debacle revealed to Frank. Apparently, Mary has been spending a lot of his money on this wedding. Now, we all kind of already knew that. Mary told us Frank and his family would be footing the bill. He's an engineer, and his family has a lot of money. I'm not exactly sure what their family wealth is from, but it was enough to pay out of pocket for him and his siblings to go to expensive universities debt-free. What we didn't know is that they've been arguing about the finances this entire time, and my cake was the last straw for Frank. Mary's budget for their wedding was $30,000, and she's apparently spent almost double that on intricate flowers, her wedding dress, decorations, engagement photos, catering, open bar, entertainment, and flying her family in and paying for their accommodations. The venue alone took a good chunk of their money because of the size and location, an hour away from where we all live. It's a large house, maybe considered a mansion, I can't remember, with several acres of land, horses, a lake, and a field for wedding photos. The entire wedding party is supposedly staying there for a few days leading up to the wedding. I've not seen it in person. Again, I'm not in the wedding party and never was, but the photos online make it obvious why it's so expensive. I had no idea they had spent that much, and neither did anyone in the wedding party. As far as we all knew, the most expensive thing Mary had bought was her wedding dress to the tune of $5,000. I only know because I went with her to try some on with other friends and bridesmaids. Pam's fiancé is one of Frank's groomsmen, and Frank's been venting to the groomsmen in texts about how much this is costing, and he's not sure he wants to do this anymore. However, he feels compelled to because the money has been spent and is non-refundable. But he said he didn't know Mary would be this way about a wedding because she typically sticks to budgets, which is true. Literally everyone is surprised by how much she is supposedly spending, including my husband and me. Mary is the person who gets everything off-brand at the store to save $1 even when she really doesn't need to. From what Pam told me, Mary asked him to just pay me so she could have the cake, and he said no, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he was tired of spending money on just one day. He told her to figure it out herself. So nobody knows what is going on anymore or if there will even be a wedding. No one has reached out to me about making the cake either, and my husband, for those wondering, is still team Mary can suck an egg. Before anyone asks, no, Mary did not grow up poor. She was very much middle class like I was, and she's never been broke or anything. She's also never seemed like she wanted overly expensive stuff. She drives a 10-year-old sedan that, despite Frank saying she needs a new car, she won't get rid of because it runs fine and my dad taught me to drive my cars into the ground. So, believe me when I say, it really is out of character for her to be this nonchalant about money. I'm not sure if I'll have another update. If I do, it'll be after the wedding, if there is one. I know a lot of people are saying things about Mary just using Frank for his money. But at the same time, I want to remember that Pam only gave me Frank's side via what he's been telling the groomsmen. I have no idea what part he played, and if this really actually bothered him up to this point, or if he's ever mentioned the amount she's been spending to her. It's now 6 p.m., and I've not spoken to or heard from Mary since yesterday after giving her the quote, so I don't have any more to add other than my perspective. It really does sound out of character for Mary to be doing this. But I remember when I got married that my husband said he wanted me to have what made me happy for our wedding. So if he's been telling her what my husband told me and still giving her money, then he's definitely not an innocent party in my opinion. Now for the 26 days later update. So I didn't expect this to actually get read on Charlotte's channel, but since it did, I'll let everyone know what ended up happening. And yes, it's confusing. Long story short, the villain in this situation wasn't Mary, it's Frank. And no, they did not get married. If you want to read the first two updates, they're the only other two posts in my profile. And this update is all the information I've gathered from bridesmaid Pam and her fiancé, so bear with me. Most of this is what Mary has told Pam, who then relayed it to me. Anyway, I mentioned before that Mary was and still is a frugal person. That's why we all thought the gift and cake thing was weird, as well as her spending a bunch of money for the wedding. It turns out that Mary has actually been trying to save money despite doubling their budget. Apparently, Frank's family always throws extravagant celebrations and parties. That includes birthdays, holidays, graduations, and weddings. So Frank has been emphasizing to Mary that this wedding is supposed to be huge because that's just how his family is. I'm guessing it's a way to flaunt success, but that's just a guess. I don't actually know the real reason. But Frank has been hands-off the entire time. I'm not surprised. My own husband only cared about the food, cake flavor, and that the colors weren't pink. But Frank has been telling Mary to save money since that's what she's good at, and that he didn't want to spend a bunch of money on one day. So Mary picked out things that were cheaper, but were not good enough for Frank. Like that mansion/large house where everyone would be staying. Yeah, Frank's idea. Mary apparently wanted to do a hotel that hosted weddings because her family could stay there for less money, and the hotel was just cheaper to host a wedding versus a literal mansion with horses. He would do this with everything and veto things like her choices of decorations and vendors because they weren't big enough, or I'm guessing extravagant. He even told her how big her bouquet had to be and that her dress needed to have lots of bling. So basically, Mary has been trying to stick to the budget, but what was in the budget didn't match Frank's taste or expectations. So when I said she had to pay for the cake, Frank accused Mary of not saving them money despite her being so money conscious. And Mary wasn't the one who had the problem with the cake. It was Frank. I guess they both knew the cake was free, but Frank didn't know I was making it as a gift. Mary explained that I was, and he said that didn't count and to ask me about it. He said it didn't count because friends doing favors for an event like a wedding isn't a gift. On some level, she must have agreed because she didn't mention Frank being the one with the problem at all in the messages, but whatever. Anyway, the cake was what Mary was really looking forward to because it was the only thing she felt she had 100% say in regarding the wedding. And when I charged her for it, Frank was upset that Mary was not saving them money like he was expecting. This resulted in a fight where they ended up not on speaking terms. When Frank was complaining to Pam's fiancé and the rest of the groomsmen, it was in text and, according to Pam, Mary found them and left Frank for making her seem like a greedy witch to everyone when she was only getting things Frank wanted without Frank's help. And that if it were up to her, they wouldn't have most of the expensive things she bought for the wedding. The only contact I've had from Mary was an apology text message. When I told her it was okay and we were still friends, she didn't answer. In fact, she hasn't answered anyone other than to tell the wedding party that the wedding was off, apologize for the inconvenience, and since then, she's been quiet. She did post on her social media a long apology for canceling. She said postponed, but I noticed her relationship status is gone. But the location/check-in is in the hometown where her parents live, not where we live. So I think she went back to her parents' house after calling the wedding off. But that's all I know, and I heard it secondhand from Pam. But according to Pam, Frank is upset Mary left because all his money is tied up in vendors that he can't get back, and has been trying to plead his case with the groomsmen, but only his brother is on his side. Pam's fiancé and the other groomsmen have stopped talking to him. Also, I heard Charlotte asking why Mary wasn't paying for the wedding too. I can't answer that, but Mary works as an STNA and doesn't make a lot. Her bachelor's was in psychology, and she never went on to get her doctorates, so getting employed in her field isn't very easy. I also don't know if they're still together. Mary didn't say they broke up, just that the wedding is postponed/canceled. I apologize if this confused anyone, but I'll try to answer anything I can in the comments. Just remember, I heard most of this secondhand besides the apology I got from Mary and the post she made online, so I may not have all the answers. Now for a few important comments. Commenter @exciting7417 said, I don't understand the connection between Mary wanting a gift and a free cake to Frank Villainous. Like, isn't Mary still wrong for asking for a gift? Then OP replied, she is. But she apologized and I accepted it. The only part I'm not clear on is how it even came up as a conversation between her and Frank. It might have just been casual, but she may have also been talking on speakerphone. I do that with my husband in the room, so he hears my conversations sometimes, even if he's not part of it. But it sounds like Frank was mad that they were now paying for the cake when he thought it would be free, and the goal was to spend little money for nice stuff. I'm guessing that if I agreed to do the cake and gave them a bill from the beginning, instead of volunteering to do it for free, I would be dealing with, that's too expensive for a cake, or, we're friends, I should get a discount. Like there would have been negotiating from the start regardless. And I've had people pull those lines on me before. That's another reason why I rarely do cakes for people, even if they offer to pay, because they still want some type of discount and get mad when I don't give one. Now for a few important comments. Arguably, the best part about this is that she apologized to you, but it also answers some questions that your other posts left open. But the one you didn't answer, is your husband still team Mary can suck an egg? No. My husband, despite not liking Mary, thought this was strange behavior from her too. So when he found out that Frank's been lying, or at least not wholly honest about everything, he's team Frank can kick rocks with no shoes on. My husband likes idioms.